Hello, citizens of YouTube land.
Hey,
It's your president and your VP, and this is the second part of the two-part review of The Stand, which is going to be parts 3 and 4. So, without further ado, let's kind of jump right on into this thing.
and we are going to be getting into part 3, the betrayal.
Yes.
So we pick up with Stu, Franny, and Harold, and the old guy with the dog up near the northeast, where they're trying to perform a surgery on one of the good survivors. Unfortunately, that good survivor didn't really make it and sleeps with the fishes. And after that, Stu and Franny, they kind of, hit it off, and one thing leads to another, and, well, yeah, you can kind of piece it together. Harold sees that happening, and let's just say he doesn't like that very much, as guess what? Harold is your Judas character for the story.
Yes, he is, because you see, he does with a little bit of a double twing, a little bit of twinge of jealousy in his eyes, and through gritting through his teeth, he does accept it because he's like, "Hey, we got to tell him." And Stu is like, I never intended for this to happen because sometimes things just do happen.
Yeah.
So they decide that they're going to let bygones be bygones, though, and they make their way onward they make their way onward. So,
to Boulder, Colorado.
With that,
where there, we then meet up with the rest of the good survivors, including Nadine, who kind of blurs the lines between being a bad and a good survivor, because in all intents and purposes, she really is good. She's just blinded by the lust of the Dark Man. And Nadine herself is actually kind of a tragic character. In fact, this part will probably have a content warning attached to it because of some things that are tackled with her character in the miniseries, in both the book and the miniseries here. So
yeah, you see that she had been sent into Boulder by the Dark Man in order to prove her love to him, and then she does what she's asked, but then she goes back to have the experience of consummating the relationship. Only the consummation isn't exactly what she thought it would be. And he basically, in no certain terms, grapes her, because that's the YouTube appropriate way
that's
of saying
not until part 4, so we'll definitely put the content warning there when we talk about that
part out.
But in part 3 here, Nadine goes to Boulder, and she just looks aged beyond her years, right? And Larry notices it too. And Nadine kind of tries to, put the moves on Larry, and Larry's like, "Well, no, I'm married to another girl, and I have a kid now, So, and Nadine's like, "What? You can't do that to me, And then she enters a house, and then the Dark Man is kind of, there with his magical demon powers, and he basically says, "Go find Harold Lauder for me, as he will be the perfect person for our plans." And so she does, and kind of, uses her feminine charms on Harold, because, Harold, being the Judas character, is the one that's basically going to betray them, So basically, they then get started on making dynamite, right? Dynamite bombs. And in the process of all of this, Mother Abigail goes missing.
While they're making the dynamite, though.
Harold is listening to disco. Not even joking. Here's a clip of it. We have to use the clip for this, or you won't believe it.
And he's super aggressive, and he's, "Nadine, I told you to never bother me while I've been doing my work and listening to my disco."
It's so stupid. But anyways, while all that's happening to the side, the main part of it is they're going to be clearing out the town of Boulder, to get ready for the good survivors. And Harold is in charge of all that. And they enter a church, and we get a very iconic shot here in the miniseries, shown here, where we see basically just how devastating this Captain Trips really was. Because this shot here kind of symbolizes all of the devastation that this virus actually caused. Like how many lives it actually took in the process of it going through the country.
In the midst of all this that he's talking about, they've also developed an idea in their heads that, hey, the guy out in Las Vegas is probably up to no good, and he certainly isn't, sitting on his laurels waiting for something to happen. So they develop an idea of sending 4 of them out as spies, and one of them infiltrates as the lover of one Lloyd, who we'll see later on. She's a little bit more prominent in part 4, and they also send out our friend Tom as
who
one
happens
of our
to be
spies.
the only successful spy and the entire group of spies that they send out. Anyways, in said process, they then also somehow get electricity because of the hydroelectric dams that are nearby. They're basically
they turn the Hoover Dam back on.
No, it's not the Hoover Dam.
I thought it was the Hoover.
No, the Hoover Dam's out in Las Vegas. That's how Las Vegas gets powered.
Well, it's near Boulder.
No, it's not. No, the Hoover Dam is near Las Vegas.
I don't know. Okay,
no, that's how Las Vegas was built, was because of the Hoover Dam.
Well, continue then.
Anyways, so they turn on a nearby hydroelectric dam, and that's how they get electricity, right? And Stu, being the leader that he is, everyone kind of just elects Stu as the new leader of the Boulder Free Zone, as this is going to become, And you got, like, Mother Abigail basically herding the sheep, but she kind of just skedaddles on off for the rest of the story.
She essentially has, like, a Moses vision where she wanders off into the desert for a while.
Honestly, she kind of just wanders. She basically just goes on off. Actually, if I remember correctly, she's actually kidnapped by the bad survivors. And it isn't until, like, towards the end of part 3 here that we get to see that. Anyways, then, as we said, Harold decides that even though he has a lot of power in this group, because, like, he was one of the ones that was leading the charge of cleaning up the town by getting all the people that slept with the fishes because of the virus buried, as well as even electing Stu as the leader, as well as even getting the hydroelectric dam turned on.
It's Harold that suggests and nominates Stu for the position.
Yeah, and Harold's even the one that's like, how about we have different people from different parts of the country be elected as a council? I'm like, you really threw it all away just because of a little jealousy?
And because of a little description that we call a feline, if we will. But
that's what he really is.
Yes, he does. He rigs up a little bloaty device, and all of a sudden they realize that something's about to happen. So our friend, who we hadn't heard from for a while, but our friend Nick, he makes the ultimate sacrifice for everybody involved here.
He basically, like, starts yelling like a madman and starts going towards the bomb because Mother Abigail sends him a vision about it. And he's like, ah!
He essentially throws himself on it, sacrifices himself to the fishes for the greater good of the community. Harold and Nadine have seen what happened, so they skedaddle on out of there.
They basically say, well, they're all slept with the fishes now. No, they're not, because Harold had the vision. So they basically get on their little freaking motorcycles and they ride off into the distance. Meanwhile, Mother Abigail basically tells the good group of survivors, she's like, I didn't want you guys to build the Boulder Free Zone. I wanted you guys to establish Boulder as a base to then go face off against the Dark Man. And so we get four groups of people. You get the old guy with the dog. I forgot his name still. I'm sorry. You have Ralph, you have Larry, and you have Stu, and they all set off towards Las Vegas at the end of part 3 to set up the finale for the Stand miniseries, part 4, The Stand.
Right.
So, yeah, honestly, there wasn't really too much to talk about for part 3 here, as part 3 is...
He did most of the talking here. I
honestly,
kind of remained silent as he sped through all the plot points here.
There's just a lot of filler, really. The only significant thing that happens is Harold's betrayal towards the good group of survivors. Everything else is kind of just not really important.
Well, I mean, the Harold, the Stu and Fred hookup thing, that was seen from a mile away, so it's not like that was anything that was going to be out of the ordinary there. So I guess...
you also, here, just to tell you that Stephen King's in this miniseries, here's the Stephen King cameo. But anyways, yeah, honestly, like I said, there's really not a whole lot that happens in part 3. The only main significant thing that happens in part 3 here is Harold's betrayal and Nadine kind of like egging him on into the betrayal.
Which, of course, is also the psychological influence and manipulation of the Dark Man, a.k.a.
Randall Flagg.
Which, by the way, though, on the Las Vegas Inn, though, there are a few of them that are starting to question their actions, which we'll see more as we get into part 4.
Yeah. So as I said, basically the ending of part 3 has basically the 4 main heroes of the story. You know, you have the old guy with the dog, Ralph, Larry, and Stu head on out towards Las Vegas as we set up the finale for part 4, also called The Stand. So, honestly, like I said, there really wasn't a whole lot to talk about here.
Well, what are you going to give for the rating for part 3?
Honestly, I'll give it a 3.5 out of 5 because it's mostly just filler.
Yeah, I'm going to give it a 3.5 out of 5, too. I would actually give it a 3, but we do have a specific, the betrayal itself is what actually bumps it up just a bit more. But as it's not the acting or anything like that. I mean, you're getting
the
what
acting
you get.
is really good. It's really just, it's literally an hour and 15 minutes worth of filler, guys. Because the last 15 minutes of the part is really where all the main brunt of the stuff happens, you know? So, it's really just filler. Anyways, we're going to end this segment here as we're going to take a break, and then we're going to come back soon to do the final part, to film the review for the final part, and we'll finally have this 2-part review out. We've been wanting to do this for so long, guys. We're finally so happy to get it done. So, With that being said, we'll see you in the other part, and bye.
Yep. See you next time. All right, guys, and we're back. We're back with the part here of The Stand, and
so before we get into this next section of the video will contain a content warning because of what is about to come up. But we're finally back with the last part of the second part of review here of The Stand. So let's get into it, shall we? It basically opens up literally right after the third part ended, with Nadine and Harold pretty much riding their motorcycles out towards Las Vegas. And in the process of it, Harold gets into a motorcycle accident, and he literally goes flying through the air, Evel Knievel style. I'm not even joking. Here's a look of it. Like, we can compare the two. So, yeah. And it's really funny, actually, to us. And then he's, like, yelling at Nadine. He's like, Nadine, help me. And she's like, nah, I'm gonna go be with my man now. All right, peace out, Harold.
I was just using you. Bye-bye, Harold. See
ya.
Bye-bye,
Harold. And she drives on off, right? And
leaving Harold to just suffer in agony. But not for long, because he's basically given one of two choices, and he decides to take the choice that leads to him also sleeping with the fishes.
Yep.
So that's the end of Harold.
Yep, that's the end of Harold.
And apparently, Stu was kind of also psychogenetically connected to him. May have screwed that up a little bit.
Yeah,
that's okay.
So,
he's psychic connected to him, but he's like, oh, well, yep, Harold's dead. So and he's like, how do you know? I just know.
The four main heroes, right? They're off to Las Vegas, and they come across this big this big I want to say canyon that's basically created because of an earthquake, and the bridge across this canyon is completely destroyed and whatnot. So they all try going down it, but Stu, he unfortunately suffers an injury and pretty much breaks his leg in the process. So the golden retriever dog that was by the old man's side the entire time, right? He basically stays behind Kojak. He basically stays behind with Stu and whatnot and fetches Stu some rabbits and whatnot throughout that process. So the other three heroes, they then say that they're going to come back for him and whatnot after they go deal with Randall Flagg. Anyways, so they head on up to Las Vegas, where one of the spies actually is in Idaho, right? We're going to put a pin on their story because this part is actually pretty big and a lot of stuff happens in it in just a short amount of time. So be prepared with us. We head up to Idaho, where one of the spies comes across a drug addict crucified. Yep. That's the best way to explain it. There's a lot more that happens actually. So spoiler alert, in the book, there's Randall Flagg basically all the way up to Las Vegas has just tens of thousands of people crucified. Vlad the Impaler style, pretty much. That's the only way to really describe it, and that's kind of the analogy Stephen King gives in the book is Vlad the Impaler style. And yeah, it's actually pretty disturbing. But in the miniseries, they obviously couldn't really do that, so they opted for just one scene to show that. So yeah, and by the way, they quickly find out that guy is actually a spy sent in from Boulder, and they the evil group does, and so they basically take him, and he meets the same fate as the drug addict guy.
So with that.
So yeah, he's sleeping with the fishes. Another one, a girl that they sent in.
Let me. This part, I got to. Okay. So Randall Flagg, right? He's getting all pretty paranoid now at this point because he realizes that there were spies sent about. And as he had said, he found the one in Idaho and he found another one and it dealt with them. Meanwhile, okay, Lloyd, our friend Lloyd, you guys remember Lloyd from earlier?
Yeah.
He's living his best life. He's got this gorgeous girl in the bedroom with him, right? And he's living his best life when all of a sudden, whoop, here they all come on in and they kind of, hey, you're a spy, come with us. Hey, how'd you know? Oh, well, Lloyd, it wasn't that hard to, fool you, buddy. And he gets all mad and he strikes her and stuff. And then Randall Flagg comes in, right? And he comes in, he goes, hey, by the way, Lloyd, hold on a second. Lady, we were able to figure out you, and we were able to figure out this other guy, and we were able to figure out this other guy, but we weren't able to I can see him, but I can't quite figure out who this one guy is. You wouldn't happen to know who it is, would you?
And she basically says, nah, I'm not going to tell you crap. And she yeets herself out a window. It's a weird. It's a weird way to describe that. By the way, don't do that. But yeah, she's sleeping with the fishes. Meanwhile, the three other dudes that were basically the three other heroes, they arrive. They get outside of Las Vegas, and they get captured immediately.
Yeah,
by the way,
literally
immediately. Like as soon as they walk up. It's like as soon as they walk up, they immediately get captured. So they're now in captivity. Meanwhile, we get back to Nadine, and this part, guys, we content warning for what's about to happen.
Let's tone down
the comedy.
For a moment here.
So Nadine, she goes into a cave, right? Where there she finally gets to meet the man of her nightmares, as I'm going to put it. It's been portrayed as like the man of her dreams, but right now it's basically the man of her nightmares, right? So Nadine basically is kind of like doesn't really want to at first, but then like kind of gets into it and whatnot. But Randall Flagg basically then like shows her his true face, his like demon face, and she's like all freaked out and telling him to stop. And yeah, you basically get what happened there, and it's the same way in the book as well. It's a very, very, very bad scene, and it's for the rest of the story. Nadine is basically Randall's slave, if you will. But there's a different word on that we can't actually say on YouTube because YouTube doesn't like it when you say that word.
But there's actually hope because Nadine, at the same time, guys, has realized what has happened to her. And as she has started to age even more and started to become even worse, she starts pecking at Randall.
She basically starts telling him, guess what? They're coming for you. Like, I know it now. Like, I saw them come in. They're coming for you, and there's nothing you can do to stop them. And he's like, yes, I can, in his old demon voice. It's the first time we genuinely get to see him get angry, too. Like, throughout the entire miniseries, the Randall Flagg has been presented as this calm, collected, always grinning type of villain. But this is the first time we see Randall Flagg actually get angry and yell and whatnot. And Nadine's basically like, nuh-uh, you're not going to win. And basically then yeets herself off of a balcony as well. So, that's two characters that have yeeted themselves off of either a balcony or a window. Yeah. So, with that being said, let's cut back to the three other heroes, right? The old guy, I forgot his name. He's basically, they're basically in captivity, right? And they're trying to get the old guy to say who the other spy that they sent in was. And the old guy's like, no, I'm not going to tell you, He's a real G for that. But they basically torture him to be sleeping with the fishes.
So then you're left with Larry and Ralph, and they're now more or less on the cross in a Jesus style formation.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this ending. So before we get to the climax here, let's take a few steps back as we go towards an airfield, right?
Go ahead.
Let me explain what Randall Flagg's big plan is here, okay? On what he was trying to do and why they sent the spies out in the first place. Randall Flagg has this entire airfield, right, where we get to see Tom Cullen, right? He has this entire airfield, right, set with jets and whatnot, and B-52 bombers that are all ready to basically. They're all set with a nuke, pretty much, right? And they were his entire plan for the story and how he thought he was going to win was he was going to nuke Boulder, Colorado to the ground, right? And I'm just like, that was his entire plan. But unfortunately, Trash Can Man is nearby setting the explosives, and he just can't help himself, right? And he basically makes every single plane that was going to take off with these nukes blow up as he's riding away with one last nuke. And he's like, I'm sorry, I couldn't help myself. I couldn't help myself. I'm sorry, And then he like starts screaming as he's looking towards above. He's like, "It's all for you," meaning that he's no longer blowing stuff up for Randall Flagg, but he's blowing stuff up for the big guy above, if you catch my drift. So, now, let's get back to the climax here, right? Anyways, Randall Flagg is basically telling them, right, that they're all going to pretty much, like, hey, tell us who this mysterious fourth person is, and we'll let you go scot-free, right? I'm like, nah, we're not going to do that. And so Randall Flagg pretty much says, all right, be that way. We're just going to make you sleep with the fishes anyways. Meanwhile, Trash Can Man literally starts riding up on a little four-wheeler with a nuke behind him, right? And he's basically like, all for you! All for you! And what can only be described what happens next, right? This is the climax of the story. What can only be described what happens next is that the literal hand of God himself comes up and basically detonates the nuke, basically making all the bad survivors there in Las Vegas, including Larry and Ralph, who are part of the good survivors, mind you, sleep with the fishes, and including the main villain of the story, Randall Flagg, by nuking Las Vegas off of the face of the earth. This is actually what happens. Here's the proof. So, with that being said, now that we've gotten through the climax, we then cut back to Stu, right? Where he has basically started to cough and whatnot, and he's like getting sick, and he thinks he might also be getting Captain Trips. Turns out he doesn't have Captain Trips. It's actually just the standard, it's just the normal-ass flu. It's not the super flu Captain Trips. It's just the normal flu.
But he makes his way on his long journey.
Well, Stu, like I said, Stu, like I said, he's stuck in this cannon, right? And he starts developing the cough. He thinks he has Captain Trips. He doesn't. It's just the normal flu, right? And all that. And Kojak kind of like runs off, and he's like, no, come back, I needed you. Oh no, I guess I'm just going to sleep with the fishes, And then Kojak actually comes back with another person. Turns out that other person is Tom Cullen. He was able, because they told him when the moon is big and bright is when you come back after they sent him out to go be a spy, right? And he saw that the moon was big and bright, so before Randall Flagg could even catch him, he was like, all right, well, I guess it's time to head back to Boulder, And Randall Flagg, mind you, Randall Flagg is now pretty much sleeping with the fishes. So Tom, he basically holds Stu all the way back to a cabin where they then are they're basically up in the Rockies now, right? And he holds them back up to a cabin, and Stu,
he
like I said,
keeps them all warm because they have to bundle together because it is the flu. And he's like, please don't die, Stu, you're my friend.
And he basically gives Stu some like cold and flu medication, like normal cold and flu medication, mind you, right? It's like just the standard cold and flu medication you use on a standard flu, right? Like I said, that means he doesn't have Captain Trips, because Captain Trips, mind you, whenever it infected someone, they were gone just like that. So essentially, then he basically nurses him back to health with the cold and flu medication and chicken noodle soup. And Stu's basically like, well, how did you know to get that kind of medication, Tom? And then Tom's like, well, Nick told me in a dream. He was speaking to me, actually. And Stu's like, you're a good friend, Tom. Seriously, that's exactly what he says. That was his exact reasoning on how he knew to get the medication. So they then get a snowplow, right? And they basically drive their way all the way back to Boulder, where then we get to see that Franny has actually given birth to her baby. And they named her Abigail as well, in honor of Mother Abigail, who actually did sleep with the fishes in the previous part. And so, with that being said, the story has pretty much come to a close, But beforehand, so now let's get to like our criticisms of this part. First and foremost, the climax to the story happens like 30 minutes in, right, into the miniseries. And we follow, and the rest that happens with Stu and whatnot, we kind of ran through that a little bit, right? the rest that happens with Stu, that is the rest of the miniseries. That is an hour long, right? That's the rest of part 4, The Stand, right? And in the book, when that happens, the stuff with Stu and whatnot, when that happens, that's 300 pages in the book. 300. It went on for way too long. I'm sorry. Like the climax itself pretty much took about like the 50 pages to get through, and then the whole part was Stu towards the end of it.
Some minor additions to or addendums to what he had just said. There is a couple of more things that are a little plot relevant, such as the guy that starts to see Randall losing control, and he wants to leave. And he tries to convince Lloyd to leave with him, but Lloyd's like, nah, man, I'm kind of bonded to him. We got this, like, soul demon possession thing going on.
Yeah.
I got no choice. And that guy ends up having to sleep with the fishes because Randall makes him when he finds out that he wants to leave. And so, but, yeah, I guess the hand of God, really? That's a criticism of God. It's like, because it's more, okay, now, I don't know how many people might think of it like I think of it, but I look at this as like it was kind of like they were written into this hole. Okay, how do we get out of this? Because the destruction's upon us. Oh, yep, I know. Let's Deus Ex Machina, the hand of God in here to take everything away.
Well,
maybe that was just me.
The whole story is good versus evil, and Randall Flagg is supposed to represent the ultimate evil. As in the book, he's written to be a lot like Satan. Actually, like we don't really get that much here in the miniseries. But in the book, Randall Flagg is written to be a lot more like Satan, and so the ultimate good is supposed to help balance that out and help win at the end of the day, because good overcomes evil. And Stephen King was raised as a Methodist, so he views God as the ultimate good. Even though he's an atheist, he still views God as a way that represents the ultimate good.
Well, so, I guess that's just where we're going to disagree there on that, and that's fine. But overall, that is a big criticism, though. That guys, this kind of the hours spent on Stu's recovery, you spent a good actually 20 to 30 minutes on just that alone, and then you have the rest of that there. So that drops it down quite a bit, unfortunately. I'm going to say my final rating for the last part is 3.5 out of 5. What say you?
Honestly, I give it a 4 out of 5. It's really just the fact that whole ending, like, it takes so long to get to the ending of both the book and the miniseries. So yeah, it's a 4 out of 5 for me. Otherwise, if it was done a bit better, if the pacing was just a little bit better, it would have been a 5 out of 5. Honestly, right. So I give it a 4 out of 5.
But hey, so that's our overall thoughts as far as this whole miniseries combined, guys. You can go back and look at all of it. We appreciate anybody and everybody that sat through the whole thing with us. We know this was a time-consuming task.
Yeah, we know that part 1 is 51 minutes long. This one's going to wind up being it's going to be less. It's probably going to be winding up around 40, but
yeah,
we still
appreciate it. If you clicked on it and you gave us a like or you're subscribed to us now, we really appreciate this.
And we finally get to end this chapter of our channel. So, like I said, let's get into the final rant here.
Yeah, sure, because I guess we could always just go right into that because everybody knows the ratings for the rest of it. So, let's just do it. You have seen Stephen King's The Stand, the miniseries, and you believe that it is the worst miniseries overall with all 4 parts included, then clearly you have never seen
The Shining.
The Shining.
I'm still going to keep it as that.
Yeah, so definitely we're probably going to be looking into that because he's got some thoughts on Stanley Kubrick's version, especially, and
Oh,
so we'll definitely be looking into that. Meanwhile, here's a little cue for the next one coming up, and overall, guys, also just to remember this though, and that is
we're just two idiots with a webcam. Our opinions do not matter, except they actually do, because we have a YouTube show, except they actually don't.
So with that being said, guys, stay tuned because we gave the cue already. There's more stuff coming, and we appreciate anybody and everybody that's ever given us a look out there, and just keep it up, guys. We appreciate everything.
We appreciate you watching both parts here of The Stand. Like I said, we know that it was a long one,
and we know the ones that are definitely doing it for us. So
yeah. Thank you.
With that being said, guys, that of course is only one thing left for us to say. And that, of course, is
peace and love from Denny and Son. Bye.